welcome to Post Games, a podcast about why and how we love video games. I am your host, Chris Plant, and I am so happy to have you here as we take our very first steps into 2026, a year that has only just begun, and it already feels, for video game culture at least, quite historic. Let's start with the obvious. This is the year of Grand Theft Auto 6, barring any further delays, which are unlikely for some very complicated reasons that I'll boil down to impatient shareholders. GTA 6 will be available on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X by next holiday season. The question isn't whether or not Grand Theft Auto 6 will sell 1 trillion copies. The question is what impact its popularity will have on the rest of video games. Because, listeners, there will be so many video games in 2026. In 2025, I would regularly say that we're in the year of too many games. Please allow me to tweak that. We are now in the era of too many games. All signs point to 2026 having even more video game releases than any year before it. The avalanche of competition will continue to be bad news for game makers who need to be increasingly creative about how they separate their new games from the thousands of others released each month. Not only will they battle for attention with their contemporaries, but also the tens of thousands of, quote, new and now steeply discounted games that have been released in the last 5 years, and the free-to-play time drains, and the entirety of retro gaming history, which will be playable on ever cheaper handheld emulators. So, if you are a game maker, 2026, pretty terrifying. Inversely, in 2026, this abundance will be a boon for most of you, the people who are listening to this show. Most of you are not game developers, you are game enjoyers, and at least in the short term, this will be a time of miracles. I mean, the glut of games that nearly killed the games industry in the 1980s, that was garbage. Games almost died because most people associated it with junk. That is not this moment. We are simply not wanting for high-quality video games that serve nearly every imaginable niche. How do I know that there will be great games in 2026? Listeners, before 2025 ended, I had already played a dozen or so solid games that will be released in this new year. 2 of the 2026 games that I played in 2025 would have made my Game of the Year list had they been released already. So, we have one mega game in Grand Theft Auto 6 made by thousands of team members across the world. We also have more and better video games than ever before. And on top of all of that, we have the major Western game publishers struggling to survive, with EA and Ubisoft pinning their hopes on acquisitions, and everybody is fighting for the tiny number of hours that players spend playing new games rather than Fortnite, Roblox, or whatever their other weekly habit of choice is. No wonder more and more game developers are fighting to unionize in hopes of creating some semblance of stability or at least ensuring protections. And so we have 2026, a year full of big questions. Will video game players return to buying new games after years of gorging on forever, mostly free-to-play stuff? Will Take-Two and Grand Theft Auto deal the coup de grace to the once powerful video game publishers that they have competed with for decades? Will developers find new ways to get their games to their intended audience, or will more and more great games be commercial failures, leading some of the greatest game makers of our time to change careers? Like I said, for players, 2026 will be something special in the short term, but the long term, I don't know. That's a lot hazier. The answers to those questions could alter the lives and the fortunes of tens of thousands of game makers, and could influence what you and millions of other people do and don't make time to play. So, that seems like a pretty appropriate topic for post-games. This week on the show, the games, trends, and showdowns of 2026. Act 1, the industry. Act 2, the games and the trends. Act 3, the best case scenario and the worst, plus 2026's big video game to movie adaptations. We'll untangle all those knots over all 3 acts with our guest, The Verge's Ash Parrish, who has a uniquely broad and deep understanding of modern gaming, both in the industry as a reporter and through games as a critic. Welcome to 2026. I can't wait to spend it with you. It is a new year and you want to eat better, but you still have no time to work with. You have no energy. You have so much going on in your life. Oh, what do? You do Factor. 2 minutes, real food, and you are done. You're not failing at eating healthy. You're failing at having 3 extra hours in every night. You're failing at not being a chef and wanting to do cleanup. Factor takes care of that. It has delicious food that is good for you. You got lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and none of the yucky stuff, no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners. It will offer you whatever you need to match your lifestyle. For me, Mediterranean diet, it really works well. But maybe you need something else, like a high-protein diet or GLP-1 support or ready-to-eat salads. Whatever it is, Factor wants to meet you on your page. Always fresh, never frozen, and like I said, ready in 2 minutes with no prep, no cleanup, just chill. I use Factor. I think that you should too. Head to factormeals.com/postgames, 50 off, and use code postgames50 off to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for a year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscriptions purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. Act 1, the industry. Ash Parrish is a video game reporter for The Verge, where she helps readers make sense of gaming's relationship to popular culture and the ultra-powerful tech companies that seek to control it. Her recent stories have clarified Netflix's revised vision for games, explained why generative AI has become such a lightning rod for naive game developers, and parsed Steam's decision to ban the controversial art game Horses. Before The Verge, she reported for Kotaku along with years of freelance work, during which she specialized in esports, and last, but certainly not least, she serves as a co-host on the wonderful Insert Credit podcast. What is the most interesting 2026 video game that you think is currently flying under the radar?
The biggest interesting games are most certainly not flying under the radar for 2026. Like, I assume the answer to this question ostensibly is GTA 6, even though by no means are people not paying attention to that game. I don't know. I'm thinking whatever Nintendo is cooking that will make the Switch to a more appealing console that will make people want to actually shell out the money for it, that's probably coming next year. Like, we haven't had a 3D Mario yet, and I have a feeling, like, maybe this is my heart of hearts, but I have a feeling that that's something that they'll put out next year. Like, you can't have a Nintendo console without a new Mario game. Like, reheating old Switch games and, porting them up to the Switch 2 just doesn't count, at least not for Nintendo. So I have to imagine that is next up, and that is honestly more interesting to me than anything that's going on with Rockstar.
Well, let's go a little further into that. Nintendo Switch 2 launches in 2025.
Correct.
Huge launch.
Yes.
Not the best-selling console of 2025, though.
No.
What should we expect to see from Nintendo in 2026 to build on that launch and to get into its kind of top spot that it prefers to be at?
It really depends on the games that they release this coming year. Like, there aren't a lot of exclusives for that console. Most of the games on that console are, like I said, reheated Switch ports. Like the potential of the Switch 2 is that it should have been the Switch 1. All of these Switch 1 games are running so much better on the 2 because we've got much more improved hardware that it feels new, but honestly, what we're doing is, we've upgraded the Switch 1 to what it should have been, possibly in 2017. So the thing that we should expect from Nintendo is really to beef up the things that we go to Nintendo for, which is the games. Like Metroid Prime 4, I'm sorry, wasn't great. At least not to the level of quality that I'm thinking about the Switch 1 release window. You had Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. Like, thinking about those games now, all these years later, those are foundational, seminal ass games, man. Like, when we rank them on whatever lists, no matter how far we go back in top games of whatever, those games are going to be at or very near the top, definitely within the top 10. The Switch 2 doesn't have that. Like, it just doesn't have that kind of 1-2 punch of quality yet that I'm hoping, because we know what they can do. We see what they can do. And it's not that Bonanza or Mario Kart World were bad or lower quality. It's just that they weren't like the transformational kind of Nintendo that we expect, especially with the new console launch. So I'm hoping that transformational, foundational Nintendo, that quality we've come to expect, is somewhere in the pipe with something we haven't even seen before, or if we're getting new entries into like some of their tentpole franchises.
We have to talk about the Grand Theft Auto of it. So let's just get it out of the way right up top.
Sure.
It is the big game of the year. It's been the big game threatening everything for, I guess, the past 2 or 3 years. Why are video game publishers so afraid to release their games alongside GTA 6? And honestly, should they be at this point?
Oh, these are complex questions that have simple answers and more nuanced answers. Obviously, video game companies are scared to release around GTA 6 because it's really hard to describe to the average person the kind of mind share GTA 6 has, that it occupies. Like, it subsumes, and it's like a black hole. It warps reality around it. That's just the length of time it's taken to development, all the things that we're hearing out of, Take-Two, like this is going to be like the game and blah, blah, blah. And because GTA 5 was so big, naturally, because things only get bigger in this economy, this world state, GTA 6 is going to be even bigger. And companies are basing like their earnings reports and their forecasts on that. When you've got something that big, you obviously want to get out of the way. That's why, when it's holiday weekends or like Super Bowl, if it's like some prestige show that's released around the Super Bowl, they'll move those around because they know that people are going to be watching the damn Super Bowl. It's the same theory in video games. Like, GTA 6 is the Super Bowl and we want to clear space around it. But should they be? Yes. Also, no. Because GTA 6 is going to appeal to the people that GTA 5 appealed to. Yes, that accounts for a lot of gamers, but it also accounts for like a lot of like not sickos, not gaming sickos, right? So depending on the kind of game that you're releasing, you were not going to take up anybody's mind share with GTA 6 anyway, right? Especially if you're an indie. Like, not nobody, but you have your own audience. If you know your audience, if you know your niche, and you know they will show up for you, then you don't have to be afraid of that because your audiences are separate anyway. But also, if you just want to ambiently like bring in foot traffic or whatever, then yeah, get the fuck out of the way of GTA 6. I'm sorry. I don't know. I meant to ask if we're allowed to curse.
You can swear. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of indies, for years, fans have flooded any video game stream chat with calls for Silksong. Silksong now exists Is there a new most demanded game that we can expect to be clogging the stream chat through 2026?
That's a good question. Like, I can think of the games that people are hotly anticipating that still haven't come out yet, but I don't really see them flooding the chat with them. Like Elder Scrolls 6, like nobody's going to roll up and say like Elder Scrolls 6. People are obviously very excited about that and are very anticipatory of that, but I don't feel like that fandom has the kind of, they don't do those kinds of things. I don't think they don't feel like that. Like that doesn't sound right to me. But those are the games that people are like waiting for at this point. Fable 2, or not Fable 2, just Fable, the new Fable. People are waiting for that. But like, to be like spamming in chat like level of Silk Song, I don't think that we have anything like that anymore. And it's great that Silk Song came out and was as good as people were hoping for.
When you said the Elder Scrolls, in a way, it kind of, you're right, it doesn't hit that same spark, but it almost does in that irony of maybe this will never come out. Like there was a little bit of that with whenever it's spamming the chat, I feel like, of I want this, and I also know that I might never get this. And Elder Scrolls will come out, even though it feels like it never will. Like, eventually somebody's going to decide that they want money, and they'll just put the name on a box.
Yeah.
I have to imagine.
Maybe something that actually might work. So the Disco Elysium people, you know how they've splintered off into 6 different... Yeah. Whatever, like, the most, I don't know, worthy successor of that studio, because they're all making like the same similar vein of game. That's what people are going to be looking forward to next.
That totally checks out. You have written quite a bit about tech companies, which makes sense. You work at TheVerge.com. In November, you wrote about Netflix's gaming strategy shifting ahead into 2026. A few months before that, you wrote about Apple Arcade's shift away from these premium mobile titles. And we have all of the stuff going on with acquisitions, whether it is Paramount acquiring WB or Netflix. Let's talk just about the Netflix for a second. What does its strategy going into 2026 tell us about the changing ambitions of these big tech companies?
They want the lowest amount of effort for the highest amount of return, which is any company. And they're seeing that behavior rewarded. So you think of games like Friendslop, like Peak, or the new game that's coming out by House. That might also be one of those. Like, when is a big walk? When is a big walk coming? You see these like not lower quality, but like less graphically intensive, less like big, you know, just chiller, smaller games that are more like casual focused. Developers are focusing on that because it has such a broader appeal, and it's enjoying a moment right now, and they're less intensive to produce. And I think that's where Netflix and what the NYT does with their word games, that's where people are going now. Because like I said, Netflix tried to like compete for like the core gamer audience at first with the games that it offered, like when you started getting Hades, and then they realized like this is expensive, it's not giving us the return, and most people are playing Grand Theft Auto anyway. We see that these games have value because, you know, people are playing these kind of lower quality casual games just to keep them on the wheel. And that's what they want to emulate. They want these kinds of keep them on the wheel kind of games that don't cost a lot of money to generate, but they're also not the same kind of games that would appeal to like you or me or the people who are buying PlayStation 5s.
Do you think that we will see these tech companies get more involved in the traditional gaming publishers? And by that, I mean Ubisoft on the block, EA in potentially the middle of a sale. It seems like almost anyone could be purchased right now except for Rockstar and Take-Two. And at the same time, actually putting together these financial packages, we're just starting to see how tricky that actually is. A lot of people say they're going to acquire something, and then it's like, well, here's our 5-person cohort, including Saudi Arabia, and we're not really sure how we're going to pull this off. Do we expect to see more, I guess, mergers and coming together of tech in the core gaming publishers in 2026, or are they going to be kept a little bit at arm's length?
No, because the tech people are the only ones with money. Like, the tech companies are the only ones that have any kind of money. The game makers don't have any damn money anymore, like hardly. So they're not buying each other. We're not going to get another. And even then, like, it was Microsoft that was buying Activision Blizzard. It was Microsoft money. It was all that AI money, et cetera, that financed that $70 billion purchase. Gaming companies don't have that anymore. And if they do, they're only spending it on to snap up like real small outfits so they can like vertically integrate all of their stuff. So you're not going to see, I don't know, you're just not going to see the kinds of acquisitions, at least by other gaming companies, because they're very precious about their money nowadays. And it's going to be those tech companies that go all in. Like, you've got Facebook still doing it. Who knows why? Like Saudi Arabia with trying to buy EA, and with Paramount too. WB, sorry. Yeah, that's what we expect. Tencent is like a tech conglomerate. Like, we know of it, or we think of it as a video game company, but they're like tiers up where they own a bunch of shit like Chinese tech infrastructure. So them too, they got money. But nobody else has any money. So I don't imagine, I mean, who knows? Like, a couple of weeks ago, it would have been outrageous to suggest that Netflix would buy WB, and here we are. So anything could happen, but I'm just not sure.
Roblox?
Oh, God.
Quietly, I know, before I said it, I could feel something drop in my stomach. It's so tricky to talk about, especially on this show, because most of the people who listen to the show, they're like millennial, probably elder millennial. They are aware of Roblox. They're probably aware that it's like this very powerful force in gaming culture, and then probably vaguely aware of it being controversial. But in both cases, maybe not aware of how much of each, that it's so powerful and so controversial. One, I'm curious if you could tell us, like, where is Roblox heading into 2026? Is it a bubble? Is it going to keep growing? And then two, with child safety becoming like one of the three things that a politician says whenever they open their mouth, will we actually see any accountability brought to Roblox in 2026?
The first step is kid gambling, and the second answer is no. Like, you've read those like interviews where, you know, you sit down with the Roblox guy and he's talking very enthusiastically about trying to figure out how to bring like safe kid gambling to Roblox. Like, those guys are on something completely different. Like, they are very, very, very focused on line go up, and they are tapping into the old tricks to see how that works, because we're seeing what mobile sports betting is doing. Those ads are everywhere now. That's like a huge, like, that just took off as soon as that became like a more national thing. So Roblox, they are pursuing growth at the cost that they have decided it's appropriate to pursue growth, which, you know, means maybe not the most robust guardrails in terms of player safety. They say that they are improving those tools, and they have all kinds of ways for making sure that when your kid is on Roblox, they're safe. But we see also the horrific lawsuits that are being brought forth against the company. And I don't see, with the way that those CEOs are talking about their product, that changing anytime soon. You don't want to make it harder for the line to go up. So slowing down to like assess how these tools are working. Where are our weaknesses when it comes to player safety, player exploitation, all of that stuff? Like, you would require it to slow down, and I don't think that's something that's antithetical to the thesis of line go up. So, kid gambling and no.
Yeah, well, that's grim. But there's the question of like, should adults play Roblox? If they have kids, I think the answer is like an easy yes. Like, you should be aware of what your kids are experiencing, or maybe you should just not have it in the household. That's a separate question and up to each parent. There's an additional question, though, of should people our age be playing Roblox because that's where video game culture is and you care about video game culture? Is that necessary, or is it kind of like saying casinos are popular and you should go to them?
Yeah. I don't care what reasons adults have for the games that they play. If Roblox is interesting to them and they want to experience that, go for it. It's not an imperative. And it's also not an imperative, at least to understand what Roblox is, so you can be able to speak about it or know about it when it's brought up in conversation if you're like, one of those video game culture people. But I'm sure, I don't play it myself. I have nieces and nephews and whatever, and they do. Like, I'm sure that there are tons and tons of things worthwhile on Roblox, worthwhile experiences, being able to hang out with your friends and your peers and whatever. Great. And that's what all the kids are doing. Also great. Personally, y'all are content to do that over there. I don't have kids, but I do tell all of my friends who do have kids, either don't let your kids play Roblox, or if you must, make sure that you know exactly what they're doing. Not just, okay, they're in Roblox, but who are you talking to? How are you using chat? What kind of games are you playing? Can you show me? Listen in to make sure that, they're not learning new and horrific slurs from their besties, whatever. Do that. Like, just be a little bit more involved, and we can maybe solve some problems or stop things before they get out of hand.
I do want to talk about, or give you a chance to talk about something that you are genuinely excited about, because there's so many clouds in the sky for a little bit of sunshine. Tell me about a studio or a publisher that heading into 2026 shows a lot of promise, like whether that's creatively or financially or both, that you are excited about.
I genuinely love anytime I see news about some game maker that got like super popular or like just this runaway success, tens of millions of copies sold or billions of dollars made. And I love when those developers like turn around like, okay, we have all this money, we're going to start investing in games. So Outer Sloth, Big Mode, what the Pocket Pair publishing people are doing. I love those stories. And we are starting to see that more and more. Aggro Crab, not necessarily one of those, we made a big game, so we're reinvesting, but Aggro Crab is another publisher that is very like on its sleeve about the values that it has. So like no Gen AI, like games are made by humans, and they have these like fun, small, quirky games that I love. Those things, they excite me the most. I also deeply love, like on the development side, what Strange Scaffold does. So Strange Scaffold is a publisher. They publish like 1 million games a year, and they're all like super bespoke like experiences that are like cheap, like 5 or 6 or however many, is like not like full price, full size games. And they like do it at this like insane clip. And they're also very passionate about like game development and game development being done by humans and sustainably, which you see a lot of people playing lip service to, but you don't really see that in practice. And I think Strange Scaffold does that in practice, at least, from what we see on the outside and, when their people speak. What else? That's like the biggest things right now. Like those companies are the ones that give me hope. And I hope that more developers that do have that kind of success, that are able to like pay it forward, that we see more of that in 2026.
I love it. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we have some more sunshine and a lot more clouds that we can assess. Act 2, the games and the trends. We are back, and I would love to hear, what news story or trend are you monitoring heading into 2026?
I don't know where your listener base is, but you and I are both based in the United States, and most of the things we cover are United States based. I'm very curious to see what our government is doing regarding ICE, how that is impacting game development. What we're doing with HB1 or H1B visas, how that impacts companies' abilities to recruit developers for, their games. That hasn't been talked about a lot. So I'm curious to see what, if any, impact these kinds of political things are having on game development in the United States, and how game developers are protecting their people. And of course, another story that we have to pay attention to is unionization. Unionization efforts continue apace at some of the biggest game studios like Microsoft with their neutrality agreement, a lot of their studios are like unionizing, and they have not an easier path, but it seems like they have an easier path because of that neutrality agreement, and that's starting to snowball. Ubisoft, I think, announced a union the other day, so up in Canada even. So unionization, as we see more layoffs and more of these terrible working conditions, like with Naughty Dog just enforcing crunch on their employees to get a demo out. Like, come on, you're going to see that more and more. And that's also another very interesting story to keep tabs on.
There are a few threads I want to pick out there. Let's start with the unionization, because you're right. It feels more active in a way now than it was even 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. But then on a national level, we have an administration that seems to be more determined to undermine unions maybe than in the last few decades. Not that there was a lot of support even during that time, but it feels uniquely precarious. Are we heading towards a bit of a showdown of an industry that is finally having this momentum and a government that seems intent on squashing it?
We have to. Like, as long as the tribulations affecting the video game industry continue with the massive layoffs and the consolidation and the massive layoffs because of the consolidation and all of enforcing crunch, like not respecting developers with, how they're paid and their labor and all that stuff. Like, it's the only way I see these, like, the very humans that do video game development, unless everybody decides to go indie, like, that's the only way that we go forward. Like, I do believe that video game companies will do everything in their power to, like, try to get around that, but it's getting harder and harder, especially with the momentum that unionization has, to expect this not to crop up everywhere. Like, I would love to see 2026 be the first year we get a Sony union. I don't think we have that yet. So it'd be interesting to see that.
I want to talk about another thing that is tied between video games, politics, and money. Video game censorship.
Yay!
Over the last 6 months, it has become even more of a growing concern. We've seen bans are not unfamiliar on Steam. I think it's worth noting, but they have been getting more attention, most recently with Horses, a game that attracted quite a bit of attention, I think, because it was an art game and it wasn't another NSFW porn game. I think there was maybe more comfort in the public to support it. Will we see more frequent bans in 2026, or where is that story heading?
We're not going to see more bans in the future because the kinds of game people are going to not make those games. I've spoken with the guys at Santa Ragione, and the haunting thing that they told me, this is having a chilling effect. It makes people make safer art. I can see that in the indie developers that are on Blue Sky talking about it. They are afraid because you don't mess with Steam like that. Getting discovered on Steam is literally the difference between life or death of these studios. They're not going to rock that boat. Not everybody is going to be able to have command the media attention that Horses did. The Horses people made that gamble. It worked, but regular indies that don't maybe have that pedigree or have those existing relationships where people know who they are and will stick up for them, they're not going to take that risk. No, we're going to see safer art in the future, unfortunately.
The thing that I'm struggling with is Horses gets banned. Mm-hmm. And then just yesterday, there was a game called, I think, Scion Dead or Scion Brain or something. And it is an anime-looking game where you are nude and semi-nude cyborgs who brutally sexually assault and murder each other with the weapons/sex toys,
sure,
including robots that look like horses. The wild thing is, like, this is not unusual on Steam. There are like games like this all the time. How do you make sense of the inconsistency? Why something like that can show up randomly, and then another week a totally different game will get banned?
I think it has a lot to do with what Steam can get away with. You know, the Horses guys wrote a detailed FAQ documenting like what happened and the who, what's, and whens. And one of the interesting things about that is, like they said, like Steam purposefully is opaque about why it rejects or keeps the games that it does to prevent having to explain itself for when these inconsistencies pop up. I think they walk a tightrope in terms of, I know that this game, nobody's going to pay attention to this game. Like, they know. It's really hard because I really do feel like games that are just like, this is a game about sex, not a game that's not trying to say anything about sex or anything like that. Like, this is Gooner shit. And they know Gooner people buy Gooner shit. And they don't want to mess that up. They also know that if you talk about sex in ways that like you're trying to examine it, those you get a little tricky because you're going to piss off some mom in Australia because they associate anything sexual with deviancy, the ability to talk about the things that make us uncomfortable, using uncomfortable imagery. They don't care about that. Like it's all like exploitation and bad and protecting the children and whatever. Those kinds of games, Steam has more leeway to ban because nobody's going to care about them that much, and they're not going to make that much money because they're not Gooner shit. So like they can feel like, I don't want to make problems for us, and potentially get MasterCard to come in and like, fuck up our ability to take MasterCard payments. So those get banned. It's unfortunate, but like that's what it is. Like you can't have anything that will upset a certain kind of person. And frequently it's those artistic explorations of sex or whatever, and not like, sex standing.
Yeah.
Which is like just straight up porn.
So people understand that is the parody title of a game and not just a generic description of
No,
sex.
that is a parody title of a Death Stranding sex game. Sex Standing.
I want to switch to a different type of slop. In the past, mimetic genres have this arc, right? You would have survivors likes or roguelikes and souls likes, and they go from being this amorphous thing to a trend to eventually just like a marketing bullet point. It's lost all meaning. Cozy games,
I was going to say cozy games.
Yeah. And then the most recent is friend slop.
Yeah.
It was the breakout trend of 2025. How will we see it grow? Is it on that trajectory? Is it the next cozy games or Souls-like?
My answer, thinking about it, honestly, is no, because throughout the years, not just recently, games that you can play with your friends have always been pretty popular. The slop part of it is, it's like the games that we're getting now are not so like objective focused. They're just like hangouts, right? But there's some like exceptions to that rule, like, I don't know, content warning, I think is the name of one of them, or I can't think of any other ones, but they're mostly just like, here's a game where you can have an objective, but you're probably going to have more fun just dicking around with your friends. So the idea of friend slop, is it going to be even bigger? Yes, of course it is, but it's playing games with your friends has always been a big thing. So we shouldn't be surprised by that. It's just interesting to see the shape that has taken, for 2025. Like these kinds of like lower, not quality, like lower scale graphics, that kind of stuff. Not the most bleeding edge of graphics or the most robust, long gameplay experience. It's just very simple. Get in with your friends, talk over voice chat, and dick around.
Is there a trend that you think will surprise people, or a trend or genre that will pop in 2026 that maybe people don't see coming?
I'm not sure about that, but I can think of one other thing that we're probably going to see really take off in 2026. Like we had a little bit of it in 2025, but I think 2026 is where it'll finally start hitting. All the Balatro clones. You had Vampire Survivors, and when that came out, you had a bunch of games that was just like it. Balatro came out last year, and we're starting to see those kinds of like games that take Balatro's formula of like adding math to more math to simple games is gonna like start cropping up. Games that are critiques of gambling but use gambling as their main mode of gameplay are also probably gonna explode, because you've got Clover Pit. I'm thinking of a game that I was playing recently, Dogpile, which is a great game. It's basically like a merge game. It's like match 3 or whatever, but it's dogs. But it also has like Balatro-like things where you can modify your dogs with different things and change how you get points on this like Balatro-like system where you keep playing and you buy upgrades and that kind of stuff. We're going to see a lot more of those games start to come out in 2026.
I have a real TheVerge.com style question for you.
Okay.
Valve, Steam.
Oh, no.
They're putting out Steam Machine. They're putting out Steam Frame, the VR headset in 2026. Does Valve have a legit shot at competing with video game consoles? Is that even their goal? What are they doing?
Valve is, I think it's just doing what it always does. It's building a work that's come before. So you have the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck was this incredible proof of concept, right? Everybody loves it, but it's still very niche. Like it's not going to get the kind of widespread adoption that a Switch 2 will. And because they have that proof of concept with the Steam Deck, they're like, we can bring this and we can remix our old Steam Machines concept and finally have something that can reproduce the idea of your computer console, like a computer you can hook up and play with your TV. That's all that is. And because it's Valve and because they make 30% off of literally almost every game that's sold in the world, they don't need that to be a competitor. That's just something that is a value add for the Steam service. That's it. Like the same way the Kinect is a value add or tried to be a value add for the Xbox One. Like all of this undergirds Steam.
For the normal show, we'll end on a little bit of a down note, and we'll come back in just a second. But first, Ash, can you tell people where they can find all of your work?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Adastra, ADASHTRA, and you can also find my work at TheVerge.com.
What if they want to hear you?
They can hear, if you want to hear me, I forgot about this. Thank you for reminding me. If you want to hear me bitch with my friends about video games, I'm also on a podcast called Insert Credit. It's a great show where we have a lot of fun. It's like a variety show where we answer silly questions like, what is the soy sauce of video games? Don't look that up.
A Patreon bonus, the best and worst case scenario for 2026. Here is where we split up, my friends. Patreon subscribers, Ash generously stuck around for a conversation that really kept expanding the more we picked at it. Ash shares a best case scenario for games in 2026 and a worst case scenario, naturally. And we talk about the comical number of video game to movie adaptations, plus the long-term viability of Hollywood's favorite new trend. Not a Patreon subscriber? No worries at all. You will want to stick around. Up next is the news of the week. Also, I'm trying something new. This week, I'm ending the show with a new video game soundtrack song. We have Blood Culture's Where the City Can't See. Blood Culture's new album doubles as the soundtrack for Skate Story. And this single is one of my favorite songs from a absolutely brilliant album. If you like the song at the end, I am shamelessly cribbing the late night TV formula here. Let me know, and I'll make it a regular feature on the show. So, let's split up. Act 3, the news of the week. Hey everybody, it's the beginning of the year. There's like no news in video games this week. I'm really sorry about that, but I don't want to leave you disappointed. So I thought that maybe we could talk about what I want to do with post games in 2026. Cool by you? Cool by me. Let's do it. First thing, I want to do more stories tied to new games, big and small. For example, I want to talk about Perfect Tides station to station, and I definitely will be doing that. You will hear that later this month. I also want to talk about the new James Bond game and the Resident Evil entry that is coming out, Resident Evil 9. I believe there's so many damn games. I want to talk about these games as they relate to broader topics. So the episodes won't just be Resident Evil, the episode. It'll be about something bigger, but I think that more new games will be a nice entry point into whatever the topic of the week is. So that's one thing I want to do. I also want to get a better understanding of how the people with actual power in the games industry impact what we play. So I want to chat with the head of the ESA. I want to learn more about the role that consultants have in video game development. I think there are a number of people who are shaping video games, often in positive ways, sometimes in negative ways, but mostly, I think, positive. And I want to learn more about how and why they do that and how much their work actually does impact what we play. One more thing. I want more stories about games that reflect the way we live in 2026. And I think I'm going to need to turn to art games. Not the kind of art games that you see on Steam, but the kind that are in museums and part of traveling performances. There is an entire world of video games that exist in these venues that go broadly overlooked in, I guess, the game media and general game consumption community. Consumption, ooh, what a strange word. But I think we should dig into them. I think there is a lot to see and a lot of strange, cool, interesting stuff that I have to imagine, like so much art, will inspire what becomes commercial in the years to come. I also think it's worth looking at older games that have taken on new meaning in 2026. Some changes to how post games will actually work. I have been creating video versions of episodes as a bonus for patrons for a few months now. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going down that path despite this insistence that every podcast must be video. So I posted a poll on Patreon asking if people would rather I continue with video or focus exclusively on audio. 98% of people voted for audio. So I'm putting video on hold. Now, that number is skewed for some very obvious reasons. I'm asking people who already like the audio version of the show where their priorities lie. But I also think it gets the audience that I need to focus on as a one-person operation. That's a big challenge and reality of post games, is it's just me. And there's only so much work that I can do in a week, and I really have to be mindful about how much I do or don't grow, lest I burn myself out and make a worse and, just a degraded product. I hate a product. Unless I make something that I don't want to make and that you don't want to listen to. So, while I do think there is still this existential question around video and podcast, and I do feel some pressure to develop that further to future-proof post games, I think right now I need to focus on one of the audiences, and that is the audio audience. After having conversations with a number of people across the industry and a number of listeners in this poll, I'm realizing that really the video version of the show and the audio version of the show, they serve two entirely different audiences. And I am one person, and I'm just not equipped right now to appeal to both of them. So we'll figure it out. Maybe more on that in the future. But for now, it's going to be an audio-only show, and who knows? Maybe I upload those to YouTube just as audio files and have zero expectations for how many people they reach. I will say, patrons still get so much value. It's still a great time to be a patron of Post Games because you get all of the stuff. You get bonus segments in every single episode. You get the monthly bonus episodes. This year, each bonus episode connects to a major anniversary. In 2026, we have done an episode on Pokemon, and an episode just went live on the year 1996 in video games, and everything is ad-free. But if you are a free listener, which the majority of you are, the free feed needs to still be A+ stuff. I will continue to make sure that the show is no less complete wherever you choose to listen. What I mean by that is that in terms of the week's topic, I never want listeners to feel like the best stuff is being withheld, or that they have to subscribe to the Patreon to get the full picture of the week's topic or conversation or interview. At the same time, I do want each bonus segment to be worth the subscription. So I treat each bonus segment like a second, smaller episode that adds depth, some texture, or maybe like a surprising twist. You could think of it as the B-side. You could think of it as the squeakquel. You could think of it as like an order of a la carte French fries. It is still so delicious. You really want it, but like you don't have to have it. You know, it's not mandatory, but I think you will really like it if you do check it out. So that is my editorial vision going into 2026. I have a calendar that is, that's filled up till basically May 1st. So there's plenty of stuff here that could bump around and move around. Though, if you have stuff that you would like to hear on the show, maybe you have some people that you think would be good for an interview or a topic or a game, anything, please let me know. Shoot it in the comments or hit me at email at postgamesmailbag@gmail.com. Either works, but I would genuinely love to hear what you are interested in, because you are who I am making this for. So, that's the news of the week. As an emo musician once said, so this is the new year. Friends, let's get ready for it. I mean, it has to be better than 2025, right? Right? I think so. Because next week, I'm breaking news, which is why I can't actually tell you what the episode is about until the moment it's live. I will say, right now, I am flagrantly biased in terms of my fondness for next week's guests. It's a duo, and the very, very unique and wonderful way that they are hoping to improve video games and the culture around them. But I won't say any more than that. You will get plenty more in just 1 week. For this week, be sure to stick around to the very end because, like I said earlier, I have a song to close the show. Blood Culture single Where the City Can't See from the brilliant Skate Story soundtrack. A reminder, post-game supporters get the show and the newsletter early on Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, usually earlier. They get extra acts and bonus materials. This week, Patreon listeners got a dramatically expanded segment with our guest where we talked about the best and worst case scenarios for this year, video game movie adaptations, and more. Plus, each month, subscribers get a bonus episode. In the past, I did things like Video Game Journalism 101. It was an entire series about how video game media works. This year, I'm doing something, I think, a bit bigger tint. I'm talking about the big anniversaries of 2026. The first of these actually went live in December, and it has been available on the free feed also. That is the origin story of Pokemon. And January's exclusive just went live. It is a history of 1996, why it might be the most important year in the history of video games. As the medium moved from 2D to 3D, I brought in a pair of experts, the hosts of My Life in Gaming on YouTube, an absolutely fantastic YouTube channel that you probably already have watched. That is a great episode, and we have more big anniversaries coming out throughout the year. Thinking about some Resident Evil, maybe? That seems pretty good. Thinking about some Tomb Raider. We'll see. You have any big anniversaries this year? Let me know, and maybe we will turn it into an episode. Plus, one last thing for patrons, no ads on anything. Subscribe to the Patreon at patreon.com/postgames. Subscribe to the newsletter for free and get all the show notes at post.games. Post Games logo by the brilliant and wonderful James Barham. Theme by Mark Sparling. And a special thank you to this week's guest, Ash Parrish. Like the show, leave a review on Apple or Spotify, or share the show with a friend. Thank you so much for listening. Now, without further ado, Blood Cultures.
burning